How to train your teammates. Right, so having gone to so much effort to get all our tools in place, you want to make sure that you get full value from all of them. And that means knowing how to train effectively. You may have experienced poor training in the past. I have. I absolutely know I have. The ones who sit you down, tell you to watch what they do rather than, uh, being more detailed. They rattle through explanations at 100 miles an hour. Then they get up and they just say, "Okay, get on with it." You know, it's very ineffective. But you're going to train brilliantly because you've got your how-to guides, right, in Trainual as backup, as a reference point. They're always there for you and your team member. So when you're training a particular point, show them the one right way, and then show them and get them to do it. It's really important that all team members follow the one right way in the kitchen, in the front of house, and then managers. Of course, you probably won't be doing all the training for your team, but if it's not going to be you doing the training, then you need to train your trainers to follow all these steps, okay? You need to train the trainers to know all the how-tos. Preparation is absolutely important, right? Read through your how-to guide, watching the how-to videos to remind yourself of all the key points. Make notes if you need to, or take the phone, it's on the app, take the laptop. Double check that you have everything you need at hand. Double check that the equipment's working, that you've allowed enough time and so on. But be ready to get it right, and just be ready to get it right the first time. Now, the training system is called ABC training. It's a very popular training system used in many hospitality businesses, right? A is for attention. If you want your team member to be listening to what you say, concentrating, so that they understand and focus, so that they'll be able to act on what they've learned, then you need to get their attention and you need to keep it. Now, there are plenty of ways you can do this, but if you're struggling, try one of these ways. Find out what their existing knowledge is by asking questions. You don't want to go into detail if they already know the stuff, okay? Important. Tell them something interesting about the task they're going to learn, gets their attention. Tell them a key fact, a funny anecdote, or a tale or a disaster related to this task. Or tell them what the benefit of learning the task is going to be, both for them and for the customer. Let them know how this task fits into the big picture of running a beer and burger store. Or make sure that they're not distracted and that you won't be disturbed until your training has finished, okay? So that's a few tips to get someone's attention. B is for breakdown. Decide in advance if the task can be taught in steps. If it's a big task, it could easily be broken down into chunks or much smaller steps, like building blocks. Walk your trainee through one chunk at a time, being really clear about what you're doing and why. Think about your pace. Too fast and they'll flounder. Too slow and their mind will be going crazy. Get interactive where you can and keep them engaged. For example, when you get to this point, you do X. What do you think that is? This can also be a good indicator of how well they are following what you are saying, and if you're making links between one part of the task and the other part of the task. A very good tip here is to use Trail and a process on Trail: opening, closing, check back, travel path. Look at the how-tos associated to those particular steps, and it will be broken down already for you, and then you can focus bit by bit. C, check. After each bite-sized chunk, and once you've taught the whole task, check that they've learned the key elements by asking them a few testing open-ended questions, starting with what, why, how, or when. Okay. If they can't answer these questions, go back to the breakdown and retrain each section until both you and they are confident that they've nailed it. All right. Practice. Then, when you're finished, let them practice. Think about when you're learning to drive, how important practice is. Well, it's absolutely no different for team members. Imagine if you're making a burger, you need to practice, you need to practice. They need to have time to practice. They also need feedback until they can do the task automatically, following the one right way, how we've prescribed it in the how-tos, and achieving this standard. As you've probably gathered, I am not a big believer in overcomplicating. This method of training is simple and it works very well in the vast majority of situations, regardless, actually, of the level of the individual or how complicated the task is. If it's done well, it doesn't need repeating. So you've got your training paths mapped out in Trainual associated to the role with subjects, which are those bigger system processes, broken down into topics, which are all those little bite-sized elements that make that bigger point up. Once you finish a subject in Trainual, there's a little test, multiple choice, 10, 15 questions. This is really important to go onto Trainual, check people's scores out so that you can give them direct feedback about how they've done or how they're doing. And also, in Trainual is the one right way. If you see them doing it in a different way, make sure they stop doing it. We want it to be done in the one right way. If their way's better, brilliant. We will update the how-to. You can capture that information. We'll update the how-to. But if it's not better, always make them do the same thing. Otherwise, we will not have consistency and we will not achieve our BHAG. As I've mentioned earlier in this course, it was my responsibility as a manager to train the employee, okay, in the skills they need to do their jobs, and develop the person, helping them grow in confidence and fulfill their potential. Okay, we've covered this already. And as a manager, it's our job to do that from day one until the day they leave or you leave to go on to pastures new. The best managers recognize that they have a responsibility to help their team members fulfill their potential. And to do that, they have to develop them as people, okay? To do that, they have to develop them as people. But how? Like, how do you develop somebody as a person? Train the employee, we've covered up to this point, is the how-tos, Trainual and the how-tos. But developing the person is a bit more of a challenge. Well, we will start with the foundations, training them to excel in their role, to perform consistently. Giving them confidence of a productive and valued team member is a great start. Then onto the foundation of operational excellence. We build their broader skills, the skills that will help them grow as a person. And there are several ways to do that. Number one, delegation. I'd put money on the fact that you've been told more than once that if you want to have any time at all as a manager, you need to learn to delegate. I have certainly said it to most of you. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Delegate your pre-opening huddles, your 5 o'clock huddles, your beer training, Beer Hero. Delegate them all out. All too often, though, because it's viewed solely as a management time saver, many managers dump rather than delegate, right? They get rid of the tasks that they hate just because they can. And we're back to that power thing against responsibility, right? Power against responsibility. Delegation will definitely save you time. and it will help you get away from tasks that you don't really need to be doing, that take you out of flow and away from areas of the job that you most value. But it's also a brilliant way to develop a young member of your team and raise their confidence. You can show them that you clearly trust and respect them, and you respect their ability to do the job by delegating them. I hugely encourage you all to use delegation as a tool to develop the person in your teams. You can delegate non-consumable purchasing. You can delegate soft drinks purchasing. You can delegate packaging purchasing. You can delegate fridge management. You can delegate Beer Hero training. There's so many things that can be delegated to give people confidence. It's unbelievable. Now, there are some reasons why managers don't delegate. So let's just talk about them for a second. Often, loss of control is a point. Managers won't delegate because they don't want to give up control. They're protecting themselves. They either don't trust the team member to do a good enough job, and they believe the team member may do a better job than they could. And either outcome will make them look bad. These managers clearly lack self-confidence and miss the point that your aim as a manager is to replace yourself in your current role, to give you freedom and room to grow into your next role. So important, that point. Your job as a manager is to replace yourself in the current role. Fantastic. I was always taught to surround myself with the brightest people I could. People who were quick learners, smart, motivated, these people with initiative, so that I could delegate to them, give them ownership, and then get out of the way whilst they did the job really well. And that then freed me to focus on things that fit my skills better. I love it when team members are doing certain things better than I could. That is what you want. That is what you want. A team of A players who are doing things better than you can do it. Another reason why people don't delegate, it takes too long. If I had a $5 for every time I've heard that, I'm just going to do it myself. It's so much quicker. And it's this sort of mindset that holds managers back, thinking that it's too much effort to give somebody the skills they need to do a job that will save them so much time in the long run. It's such a short-term view. I don't want to hear it. Make time to delegate. Make time to train and delegate. Here's another one. My team member will resent it. This is a cracker. Believing that because you hate the task you want to delegate, that your team member will also view it in the same way and believe that you are dumping it on them. But if you choose the right person, somebody who's brilliant at the task, then that's how you sell the task to them. You can actually say to them, I really don't like this task. I can't do it, but it takes me a lot longer. And it would be great if you could do it. I know you enjoy this sort of thing, and I'd love you to learn how to do this task and take it off my plate, for example, right? Simple. It's good to have a team-focused mindset as a manager, okay? It's good to have a team-focused mindset as a manager, to be willing to do jobs that you're asking your team to do, but you've risen to the level of manager because you're good with people, because you're a good leader, because you have skills that other people still have yet to learn. And if you're going to grow and develop, you need to keep delegating to grow and develop people to replace you in your role. Okay? How to delegate? Ask yourself some of these questions. Can someone in the team perform a task now or with training? Is it an opportunity to develop someone's skills? Is it a recurring or routine task? Do I have time to delegate effectively? For example, time to train and give feedback. Is it a task I should delegate? For example, you wouldn't want to delegate an interview or a team member's performance review, but most other tasks will be delegatable. I don't know if that's a word, but let's say it is. So there are 5 questions that you should ask yourself when you're thinking about, should I delegate this task? Can I delegate this task? Now, Once you know you're going to delegate, this is the process you need to go through. Okay, you need to choose the right person. This comes back to knowing your team, their strengths, their weaknesses, their DISC report. Where are they? What are they strong on? Will the task put them in their flow state, or will it take them out of it? You've got to be very careful about that. Explaining why you're delegating this task to them is really important. What are your reasons? What are your reasons for choosing them to do the task? And why are you delegating it to them in the first place? And a great reason is to develop the person. Explain the results you want. Okay. If you're delegating a routine task, then you will simply train your team member in the one right way to do the task, the how-to. But if you're delegating something where only the result is important, maybe you want them to organize a team building event or create a report or sort out the stock cupboard, tell them the result that you're looking for and empower them to come up with the how themselves. So tell them the outcome you want and tell them they can go about doing it any way they like, as long as this is the outcome you get. Make sure they have the resources they need. So do they need any special equipment or software or team support? Make sure they set themselves up for success, okay? This is what we want. This is always what we want. Delegate responsibility and authority. So make sure they know the decisions they can make and those that you want them to run by you, okay? So giving them the authority to make a certain set of decisions, but also giving them clear guidance that you want them to come to you for certain sets of those. You want them to feel supported to do the task, but not micromanaged. Give them feedback. The biggest mistake most managers make with delegation is not to give any feedback. Feedback. Always check the work you delegated when it's complete, or set milestones if that's what you've agreed. Make sure it was done to the standard you expected and you explain to them, and give your team member feedback, either to congratulate them on a job well done or to help them improve for next time. Say thank you. Publicly, if it's appropriate, recognizing specific things that they did well, showcasing to the rest of the team what good performance looks like. Okay, so use delegation as a tool to develop the person, but follow those rules that I just outlined. Okay, meetings. How about meetings? How can meetings help you develop your people? Well, for a start, you can develop someone by delegating the whole organization of the meetings to them. The venue, the agenda, the refreshments, all of it. You can then get members of your team to present at team meetings. Getting someone to present to a small group, particularly of their peers, is a fabulous way to develop them. Most people fear presenting, right? They're really scared of presenting, standing up and talking, full stop. And those that can deal with it still feel far from comfortable presenting to strangers. Start small. Ask each team member to come up to your meeting prepared to discuss their area. So you guys can do this in your 5 o'clock huddles, your weekly huddles, your team monthly meetings, kitchen meetings, many opportunities to delegate an element of a meeting. Totally, absolutely, totally. So start small, asking each team member to come to your meeting prepared to discuss their area, to share what they feel has gone well, the challenges they've faced since the last meeting, any wins and so on. Get them to stand up when they do a little bit of talk to make the presentation. Give them feedback about how to improve, and over time it will build their confidence and ability. This is developing the person. Most people hate presenting and don't know how to present well. So by developing your team in this way, you're giving them an invaluable skill for life, okay, for their future employment. Have fun with it. Finally, mentoring. If you've got someone who's really struggling in a particular area, maybe there's an introvert and they're struggling to be heard in a noisy team, or maybe there's someone with a real potential who has a tendency to kind of self-destruct. Finding them a mentor outside of the team who's been where they are now, who understands what they are going through, can be a really good way to support their development. Of course, you can also be a mentor to individuals in your team. When you see someone struggling, take them to one side, take them for a coffee, take them for a walk, talk to them about what's going on. Say, you just don't seem like yourself at the minute. Is everything okay at home? What's going on for you? Because obviously I can't have you snapping at me and being sarcastic with your teammates if they're making those kind of comments. What you did/said this morning in front of the team, how do you think that made them feel? Again, if they're saying things, be a good listener. I don't just mean listening to the words that people are saying. I'm talking about listening to the things that aren't being said. Reading between the lines, noticing when people aren't quite themselves. These are slightly cheesy sayings. You were given 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion, all right? For leader managers, this is absolutely essential. Don't always be diving in there with what you think or what you believe or what feels right. Don't always be in a hurry to solve their problem. Take time to listen. Take time to listen. This is what a mentor does. So we covered a lot there in delegation, meetings, and mentoring. And these are areas of personal development for people. But I would really like to see this happening within your teams. Okay, we've spoken a lot in mastering your team's performance, and remember, you cast your shadow of the leader every single day. Every time you walk into a store, every time you pick up your phone to speak to one of your team members, every time you're on a video call, FaceTime, every time you write an email, however you interact with your team, you are casting your shadow over them and they feel your presence. Whether it's a superhero presence, come on, we are a team, we can do this. Or whether it's oh Lord, he's in such a bad mood today. This is going to be the day from hell. It's up to you, okay? But choose wisely. Don't be the manager whose team are on tenterhooks every day, waiting to see who's going to turn up. Choose consistency. Choose to be consistently positive, to be consistently firm, fair, and friendly with your feedback. Choose to be the example that you want your people to follow, because you are the person they model and mimic for good, bad, or ugly. They watch you and they copy you. So give them the best version of you every day. Mastery of your team's performance is an ongoing task for every manager. But with the right mindset and the right foundations in place, I have no doubt that the mastery is exactly what you will achieve. And when you do, you will watch your team fly.